All right, y'all. We need to prepare. There are some trigger warnings ahead, or trigger warnings right now for the story that lies ahead. Okay. So, to be clear, I'm going to be talking about, I don't like the euphemisms for it. I really don't, because I'm like, self-harm. No, that's not it. Unaliving. No, that sounds stupid. Um, I think we're grown-ups here. Can we be grown-ups? Can we just use the actual word? And I'm going to be talking about suicide, and not in the way that should egg you towards doing it, but that should get you rethinking what that word means for you in your life at this time. Okay, I think we could do that. We can do that, right? We're grown-ups. Um, all right, so I have some notes and I want to make sure that I adhere to my notes because I don't want to spend too much time with you and not enough on what the subject is. So for the last year, more specifically for the last 6 months, all I could do was think about death. I had a date planned, and that was July 25th. And I knew that I was extremely tired of living. But here's the other thing. There was a part of me that rejected that plan. In fact, every time I thought about the date, I would see something else, something, a sermon, or somebody would deliver a message, or I'll be out and about, and a former student would approach me and tell me how much I changed their life. And in those moments, I would silently throw a rant up to God, like, really? This is what you're going to do? You just spent almost the better part of a year silent with me. But anytime I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm not even hearing from you. You send somebody from my past that let me know how impactful I had been in their lives at a time of trouble. It literally was two different students and one of my um, fellow football moms, her daughter. I don't remember these conversations at all that I had with these three women, these three young women who are now really like in their 30s and having their own full lives. I don't remember their conversations with me. I don't remember where they were at that point of time or in their life when I spoke to them. But something about what I said to them then kept them going, gave them hope, gave them something to reach for and to strive to achieve. But I was mad at God. How dare you? How dare you dredge up these moments of my past that I can't even recall and show me that I would be missed? How dare you? Because the people who are in my life now don't even speak to me. My family is just a word in a dictionary. So it bothered me. It bothered me a lot. So I want to talk about that, right? I had this date and I just continued to think about it over and over and over again. But that part of me was like, okay, one more try, one more try, one more try. All right. I went and got licensed as a vendor for school systems and met a door. Nobody knows who you're supposed to talk to get it done. Okay, one more try. I started making these journals because I needed them, right? And I'm like, okay, so is that going to be the thing? And so I started making them, and they were beautiful and they were amazing and they could be so helpful for people. And then they weren't going anywhere. I'm like, dude, you're telling me to do things. I'm being obedient with these things and nothing's happening. In fact, things are getting worse. And boy, did they get worse because I ended up losing my life in my storages. I lost everything that my kids' pictures, my passports, everything. My son even had someone who got a hold of his federal documents, identity documents, and they've started reaching out to him and threatening him with using them because the storage has violated the rules of not selling our federal documents to complete strangers. I laugh because if I don't, I would be very, very angry. And so problems just kept happening. Lost my phone number, lost job opportunities, go through 3 rounds or 4 rounds of interview from phone to in person, only to be ghosted after given hope at the interview. It just kept happening and it just kept happening. And I'm sitting here going, everything you tell me to do, I do. And nothing's happening. Nothing positive is happening. And so I put my head down so that I wouldn't think about it. But by the time January rolled around, I said, that's it, I'm out. I'm done. I am done. And what ended up happening is I had a coaching program that was 6 months that I was testing. And for the full week that I was promoting it, nobody bought it. So I was like, all right, cool. But I had on schedule um a talk that I was supposed to do in someone's group. And I went, you know what? I'll do it. Because I heard to pitch this thing one last time to get my beta members. And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. And so I did. And you know what happened? This was my last time pitching it. But I had already made up my mind what was going to happen. And somebody bought it. So now I had a dilemma of honoring the purchase, honoring the commitment that I put out there. It was like that story of fishing, going out and then testing the waters because Jesus said go there, and you're like, ain't nobody gonna be there, but you know what, I'll go, and then catching a fish. And that's what ended up happening. And so it delayed me from having that immediate date to the July date. So I was like, fine, at the end of this program, one day afterwards, I'm out, I'm gone. And so I continued to create and to create because I wanted to create legacy that could provide income streams for my family when I was gone. Told you, we got some deep stuff here to talk about. If I'm going to talk, if I'm going to stand behind my brand of girl, use your voice, I have to talk about the uncomfortable things. I have to talk about reality. But in talking about reality, I'm also talking about the unreality. Because the truth was, I did not understand where all these negative feelings were coming from. Yes, I was grieving. Yes, that led to a bout with depression. And yes, I felt like my entire life had fallen apart. But I had never been, in the last 14 years, I had never been at a place of where I thought about taking my life. Did I have worse things happening? Heck yeah. The last 14 years have been extremely hard, extremely hard. But this is what's really interesting, right? Because I started having that one part of my brain, I won't even say half of my brain, it was like literally a little voice, a little whisper that just kept saying, do this, watch this, see this. So I'd open my YouTube app and boom, there's a message, and I listen and it pierces me and I'm like, oh, that was for me. And what started happening is little by little, I was being reborn. I started focusing on near death experiences. One, because I wanted to know what happens after death. But what ended up happening is I did not get what I was looking for out of it. Instead, I got a different message. And that message was, you're here to do something. Because everyone who talked about a near death experience talked about an assignment that was over their life. That's not what I was trying to hear, but it was what I received. And still, my mind circled with these negative thoughts and this obsession with that date. And I worked really hard, but it was still in the back of my mind that this was going to happen. And so what ended up happening after that is I went from watching the near death experiences to starting to reawaken spiritually. And I don't mean like, mm, I don't want to say it that way, so I'm not going to say that. I don't mean churchfully. Let's put it that way. I mean purposefully. I mean actual spiritually, soulfully. Started to reawaken. My dreams had returned. They became vivid again. My premonitions were starting to return. My feelings or insights were starting to return. And it was as if I was drowsy instead of drowning, right? Which was a better feeling in a way. But the drowsiness means that there wasn't any clarity. The drowsiness meant there wasn't any clarity, and it also meant that there wasn't any direction. And without both of those things, I was lost. I still didn't know what I was here to do. I still didn't know why um, I was being told to keep giving it another try, keep giving it another try. But then I want you to jog with me until this present time. Today, I was listening to another podcast and it was just totally random. It came up again on my YouTube and it was, um, what's it? Mayim Bialik. Forgot how you say her name, but she was Blossom for those of us who are Zennials and millennials. And so she had this podcast show and on it, she was talking to Teresa, the Long Island medium, and it was an interesting conversation, but something was reminded within my spirit, within my soul, when at the end of the episode, they were recapping what the conversation was. And they talked about how she mentioned that she would pray that God's white light surrounds her. And I went, wait, I used to do that. When did I stop doing that? When did I stop praying and being bathed in the white light of God? And then that question just led me to more questions. Okay, so when did I stop doing that? At what point in the last 12 years did I stop doing that? Or last 14 years did I stop doing that? And as I'm asking myself these questions, they talked about how she mentioned that someone that she was talking to had two negative spirits around her that were trying to um, come to Teresa, like trying to hijack, I guess, onto Teresa. And then that jogged my memory again. And I was like, the person I had allowed in my home back at the end of 2022, I kept saying, there's an energy here, there's a spirit here. I became agitated, I became irritated, I became short tempered, I became unhappy. And that never left me. And I thought about it and I was like, wait a second. And I heard it in my spirit. I heard it in my soul. That wasn't yours. And I went, what? Those thoughts, those negative swirls, the date, the obsession with death, that wasn't yours. And I went, hold on. And so I'm standing there. I'm like making my kids lunch. Like they like me to make ramen and then like do poached eggs inside the ramen. Um, and so I'm making them lunch, having this memory jog. And it's like, that wasn't yours. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Because 2 years ago in 2022, I went through an extremely hard time in my life. I went through a huge breakup. I'm talking about the kind that made me cry every day for like 4 or 5 months. Um, and not once during that time did I think about death. Not once during that time did I think about taking my own life. And so I'm thinking, and I'm like, wait a second. Yeah. hold on. And so I go, okay, so when was the last time I thought about that? And it was in 2010. 2010 was an extremely dark time of my life. And I was like, there's nothing in this world to live for. I was like, what is life? What's the purpose of it? It was just a really bleak and dark time for me. And I thought about that time and I said, what happened then that wasn't happening in the last 12 years? And it was the fact that I was hanging around certain people whose energy, whose vices, and whose spirits actually weren't aligned with mine. And I was trying to force myself into relationships with people who were not a part of my assignment. And in doing so, their spirits that they had were being attached to me. They were taking out my light. Before them, I was making vision boards. I was dreaming. I was, having constant conversation with God. I was going to um, church every single week, but not just that, going to church for communication with God. I wasn't just going to church to go to church like other people do. It wasn't because it was a requirement for me. It was because I literally felt the presence of God, even if I wasn't hearing what the pastor, preacher, bishop, whatever they were saying. I went because I said, I know you have a message for me. What is it? And so when I put those two together, this woman who came to live with me, and I'm not saying she was a bad woman. I'm saying there was a spirit on her that attached itself and never left. And then there were these other people. But in between, I had some life shattering moments. I'm not even just talking about the breakup. I'm talking about some realizations. I'm talking about some revelations. I'm talking about some family issues. I'm talking about some huge, huge, huge stuff. Deaths included, um, people stealing from me, betrayal. I had some really, really bad stuff happen in that time frame of 2010 to 20, let's say 2024, well, let's say 2023. So I had some extremely bad things happening in that time, and I never once thought about death. And I went, that wasn't mine. You're right. And I heard inside of my being, inside of my soul, once again, that my weapons are not carnal, but theirs are. So, what does this mean? I'm bringing this message to you because this is exactly where I feel a lot of us have been in the last couple of years, especially as the crack in the earth, the fissure, the change to the atmosphere and the energy that was the pandemic happened. Um, those of us who are here on assignment, those of us who have healing, communication, um, transformational abilities, those of us who are not here to shine and dance in the light, but to be and give off the light. Those of us who are the healers, the creators, the communicators, these people, we have been under attack, a spiritual attack. Our weapons are not carnal. We cannot fight the fear. We cannot fight the depression, the thoughts of suicide, the anxiety, the irritation, the irritability, the financial destitute tuition or whatever. I don't know what word right now. Um, all those right now moments, all those carnal moments, all those things that attack our security, stability, we cannot fight those things by trying to do and be and get more of those things. It's not about going out and getting another job. It's not about going out and starting another business. It's not about going out and dating another person. Those things are not going to work in this warfare because, again, our weapons are not carnal. You have to go internal, and hopefully you have been doing that work these last 4 years, or at least the last 2 years. Hopefully you have been doing that work. And I can almost guarantee that if you had the most hellish 2023 as I did, or as so many other people did, you have been doing that work, right? And so this is an attack. It's a distraction from you walking and becoming who you were made to be, walking and becoming the person who was called and more than qualified. You are being taken off your path. You have been distracted by the weapons of this world, which are carnal, and you cannot fight them the same way they were created. You have to tap into who you are. You have to go back to who you are spiritually. You have to withdraw. And if you haven't done that, I promise you that's part of your journey right now that's going to happen. But you also have to remember. And I'm grateful for having watched those near death experience videos because they helped me remember that I'm here on assignment, that I am more than what I see in the mirror, and I am more than what people call me or who they say that I am to be. I am who I was made to be. And for a long, long, long time, that was a very frightening thing to me, the bigness of me. I ain't talking about this size, y'all. I'm talking about that. Call it, y'all. That anointing that has been over my life was monstrous, is just luminous, right? Like, and it's so funny because I was listening to Super Soul Sunday with Oprah and India Irie, and she talked about how that's what she's representing right now. Like people thought she was bleaching her skin. She was like, no, I was trying to make my skin look gold to show the light that has been let go or released within me because I am light. And it's just so funny because those messages keep connecting. And the fact that people are shifting in the same types of ways with the same types of messages, just really call in the confirmation and the affirmation of what is taking place. And I'm going to tell you, the calling is scary. And I've been running from it. And I know a lot of y'all have been too, because you've allowed yourself to be distracted as I have. You've allowed yourself to be distracted by the things that seem like they are the priority, but the priority is remembering and recalling and becoming who you were made to be. So those were some of the things that I had to do. I had to remember I've always been a writer. I had to remember I've always been a performer, a speaker. I had to remember that everything I've been chasing for the last few years was never part of the blueprint of my life. It was the blueprint created by man about what I was supposed to be going after. I am the promise. I don't know where that just came from, but that's the truth. I am the promise. People talk about God's promise. You are God's promise because just like the tree, you come from seed. So everything within you is already there. Everything you are to be is already there. It is about how you, I don't want to use the word manipulate it, but how you form it, how you shape it, how you how you allow yourself to view who you were made to be, but also to embrace the fear of it. Why? Because a few years ago, it had to be about, yeah, it's been about 13 years. 13 years ago, I was walking around the park and I heard that fear was not face everything and run. That's such a cute but weird saying. I don't even like it. Um, Fear is forgetting everything already revealed, forgetting everything already revealed because you've already seen it. You've already been promised it because you are it. You are the promise. You are the seed that was so busy focusing on the fact that you were in the darkness of the dirt and you didn't know which way was up or down, that you forgot that you were supposed to be growing in both ways. You will find the light when you also ground yourself in the source of who you are. The light is for recharge, and this downtime, this isolation, this invitation to self is the grounding. It is the part that's going to make you bend, not break. It is the part that is going to help you keep getting up even when the thoughts start circling. I'm going to tell you to reject those thoughts because they're not yours. You have to recall whose energy you allowed to adhere to you. Who did you allow into your home? Me, it was a literal thing, but it was also into the home of who I am, my spirit, my soul. Who did you allow in? Who were you trying to attach yourself to and instead became hijacked by their spirit? Reject it. Reject it and return it. And you can return it, bless and release without ever having to go back there again. You don't need answers from them. You don't need apologies from them. You don't need anything from them. When I was trying to think of how much I needed people in order to show up, I'm like, Lord, I feed from the energy. Like I need the energy to keep it going. Like, God, like, you know, you made me the kind of person who, like, you know who you made me to be, like, you know. And God was like, I do know. You don't need others' energy when you have my anointing. So the reality is that your unreality right now, this thing that was never really honestly a part of your blueprint, but that now has to become a part of your map so God can use it to get you back on track. This is unreal. And I'm saying that because it is not who you really are. It is who you allowed yourself to be hijacked into being. Your unreality, the thing that was never part of your plan, is part of your disobedience. Your burnout, your meltdown, your confusion, your poverty, your anxiety, your feeling like you have to run back into the workplace only to know that once you get there, God gonna agitate your spirit to the point where you want to quit again. Listen, everybody's not an entrepreneur. Don't think I'm talking about that. But everybody has a calling and a purpose, and you running for a paycheck away from your purpose is going to keep you on that hamster wheel getting nowhere. My dear, you don't want that. You don't want that. I don't want that. We don't want that. So I'm going to end this video with this. The way that you fight their weapons of carnality is with your weapons of spirituality. And that is going within. That is going quiet, journal, meditate, sing, dance, move. However it is that you receive the downloads, however it is that your intuition gets lit up, get to doing that. Get to being more of you. And I'm going to invite you to think about your time period of childhood, that 0 to 18, or maybe before 18. I want you to think about who you wanted to be, what you wanted to become, and why you wanted to do it. And in there somewhere is evidence of your gift. I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help bring life into this world. I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help women have a smooth ushering of motherhood. But when that was taken away from me at 16, when my choice and my voice was taken away from me, as was my spiritual transition into motherhood, it's like that dream died. And in truth, that's because it never really was mine. Because since I was a younger child, younger than a 13, when I got wooed by a TV show called A Baby Story, before that, I was a writer. I was writing before I could make sense of words. But by the time I could, I was winning awards from third grade on. I was winning awards writing. And I had to get humbled because I did get a big head about it. And I got humbled real quick. But that humility here, I don't, I don't know what word I want to use there. That humiliation, because that's what it really was. There we go. That humiliation was not supposed to steal my voice, but I allowed it to. And that happened before I was 18. And from then, I stopped pursuing the dream that was mine to live. I dreamt of what I was supposed to be, literally dreamt it, and denied it because it did not fit how things go in society. At least that's what I saw. So I want to challenge you to think about who you were called to be, and who you've always known yourself to be. Because I promise, you know the answer. There is no God. What am I supposed to do? Is God, who am I? Can you show me? And how do I get back there? So, one of the ways is to start remembering. Remember who you are. Go back through your mind. Remember what lit you up. Remember how your times will pass by. Remember what you thought you would be. Remember when you lost it and why you lost it, and then reclaim it. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your light. Girl, the world is waiting on you. So, what are you waiting for? Oh, y'all, be blessed, and I love you. Bye now.